Hello, it's Etharal here, and today we are going to try out a new mod for Stellaris. This is the Star Wars mod, A Galaxy Divided. Looks like quite an interesting mod. I have also put in a big collection for the Galaxy suggested pack of mods as well that I'll get into in a little bit. We are going to be starting this game off. We're going to try playing as the Sith Empire. Very, very exciting ones to get to play as. It looks like they have been very, very meticulous as well with the actual galaxy itself, numbering over 800 planets for, well, 800 systems, multiple planets in each system, and as accurate as possible to the lore of the expanded universe. That's something that I will obviously, clear up very quickly though. It's the expanded universe and not the new cinema, the Disney sort of one where they've thrown out all of the old canon. So this one, we are playing as the Sith Empire. It is in the Knights of the Old Republic era as well. So we are back the actual, in Korriban, there's Droman Cass. The Jedi actually start on Tython. So it is very much Old Republic era. My personal, second favourite era, admittedly. It's not my absolute favourite. My absolute favourite era is actually the Legacy era of, 100, 200 years, whatever, a good while after the Battle of Yavin, whereas this is about 4,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. Still an excellent, setting brought to us by the great minds over at Bioware with the Knights of the Old Republic games and the Old Republic MMO here. So we are going to be playing as the actual Sith. We're going to look at trying to see if we can't, claim and finally do what the Sith always failed to do. They always aimed to do, of take over the galaxy, and never were completely successful. There was obviously Palpatine that pretty much managed to do it, and then there was Darth Krayt in the Legacy era, who also did pretty well, but never quite got there and were ultimately overthrown. We've got, as mentioned as well, a load of different mods on. I'm just going to, talk you through some of these mods that we've got and the ideas behind them. So you've got, first of all, the better graphics mods, so with epic explosions, better battles, things like that. There's an improvement to the night cycles on planets. There is different ships have been added on. I've also added in the 1080p overhaul mod UI. The 1080p UI overhaul mod probably wasn't the best choice. As you can see, I'm actually now running on a 4K monitor, and everything is absolutely tiny. I'm really, throughout all of this one, struggling to see exactly what's going on, but, certainly, it could be a lot worse. I can still deal with it. It just takes me a little bit longer. I have to read some stuff a bit more carefully. I am going to have a bit of a play around as to whether I'll have that mod in or not, and maybe look at getting that one sorted so that it's actually a little bit better for seeing, certainly for yourselves, to be able to see what it is I'm doing. As I am, as always, with these ones, I'm running this at double speed, and so it's probably going to make it a little bit difficult for you to, be able to catch exactly everything that's going on sometimes. It's also got the civilian ships mod, so you've got a civilian trade going in and about. Nice little thing, helps make the actual galaxy feel more alive. I've only got it set up to be running them between in my systems and such at the minute. It's just the base level mod. I may look at increasing that to it being the more dynamic one. So there are, I believe, two different options outside this. There's either your lands, there is lands that you can see, so they can move outside and they can move into other enemies and that enemy's allies, that you can see inside of as well when you're sharing the actual sensor data and everything. And also as well, there is a fully realized one where it calculates it across the whole of the Empire. There is a warning with that one that it can cause a bit of a stability hit and a bit of a performance hit if you are running on a less powerful computer, and mine, not a weak computer, it can definitely very comfortably handle this game. And so, though, I wanted to just make sure that it wasn't going to be an issue before I did turn that on. Last thing I want to do is have it crashing before I manage to save and set up a game, basically. So here we're just going to, start to expand out the Korriban system and the Sith Empire. Their starting point isn't the best. It's not exactly brilliant. It's basically, the problem being is that there is, a lot of issues in terms of there isn't really many options to move to, which is, it's a slight problem. It's not great. Could be worse. We've got some options with them going over to not going over to Korriban, going over to Droman Cass, which, for anybody who's played the Old Republic MMO, is the seat of the Empire during the Emperor era, when he obviously, shows back up again and things like that. I won't spoil any of that if it happens for anybody who hasn't played the MMO. Would strongly recommend going and playing that game as well. To be honest, I think my first video was actually a review of it. But here, so we're just, we're searching around. We've managed to, establish ourselves up a little bit, and we are going very much for colonization. We want to grab quite a few planets, and it does seem like the planets and the systems in this, they are a lot more compact. We are using hyperlanes as well, unfortunately, which is, well, I say unfortunately, it's not a terrible one. I'm not the massive fan of hyperlanes. I'm not the fan of having it so constricted as to where that I can move, although, I can deal with it. It's not a terrible one. I do one I really do enjoy, weirdly, is the jump drive, sort of the warp drive actual abilities to be able to jump using those. I think is a really fun, the wormholes one, that's it, I've just remembered it now. That's a really fun one. I have played it as a little bit. I did have a go of playing the Eldar in the 40k one, and something that I really enjoyed, so something I think I will try to do one with that at some point. But here, we're just expanding out, and we're having to be pretty careful. It is one of the problems of the hyperlane one, which is one thing that I don't like, is that if, say, for example, in one of the systems there, you can see along one of the lines, there is actually, enemies in there, and that pretty much cuts off a whole option that we can go to, whereas, and potentially, as we could see later on, it can potentially cut off a whole section or a whole actual area through the galaxy, which will really hold down exploration, whereas with the warp drive ones, you can get around them. It just takes you a lot longer because you have to go the long way around. This way, though, if they bottleneck you, that's it, basically, and you can't really get around it. We'll just take the time as well to mention that if you do want to subscribe to this series, do be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. It does help me out, obviously, and it also as well gives you notifications for when I'm putting out videos, that if you want to see them, it's a great and really, really convenient way to do it. And so with this game, we're just trying to move everything slowly. It is your typical, basically, early game. Things are moving pretty slowly. We're trying to sort of get to grips with exactly what it is we're doing in terms of technology, and trying to get grips to ideas of where it is that we want to go and things like that as well. I would normally look at picking up an extra science ship to be able to expand a little bit quicker, although this time I'm going to try and avoid doing that at the minute. Basically the reason being is that I want to try and keep as much influence as possible, so that way once I do manage to find some places I can colonize straight away, rather than having to take some time and actually work out exactly where it is I'm going, or drop down a couple of frontier outposts to expand my territory, and then come into the issue of actually, okay, so we've expanded this area, it's fine, yeah, that's great, however now we don't then have the influence to be able to colonize the planets, which wouldn't be a brilliant setup. But that's something that we're going to deal with, and we're going to see how that one does exactly going forward. Here you can see as well the actual Sith fleet is, it's a basic fleet, it's nothing too impressive, and the Sith are going to, the Sith, they are very militaristic, so it is probably a case that we are going to have to watch that a little bit more closely and try and build up our military as much as we possibly can. And it would be great as well, I think this mod does have a plan to put in some events and things like that. It'd be really nice to see some, Jedi and System Force sort of related events. I think could be really, really fun for them to put into this. We'll have to see whether that is something that they do. I'm very much hoping so, and I think I'm sure they will. It would be a massive, massive missed opportunity if they decide not to actually do that. Now, in terms of other mods, there is quite a little bit of stuff, that we can potentially, play around with and things. There is as well the actual ships. There are some guys, they have borrowed some mods from a guy called Yorick, who made the Old Republic ships and the Sith Empire ships mods, which actually puts in new ship designs into the game. Really nice options, and I think something that I am going to look at putting in the, maybe designing some of those and everything in the near future. I do know they do have plans as well in this game to, in the mod itself, put in actual portraits for species like the Wookiee and things. They're just using base sort of placeholder templates from the original game, which, while don't look terrible, they do look nice, although they aren't exactly, they aren't Wookiees. In short, that's pretty much the long and short of it. They aren't Wookiees, you can tell they really aren't, and there is some things like that which are a bit of a shame and really are limiting onto, exactly what you can do. And I think once they do start putting new faces for what people do look like and things like that, with say for example like the Stellaris Twilight of the Imperium mod, so the Warhammer 40,000 mod that I've been playing quite a lot of, they have put in the Tau, they've put in human portraits, they've put in every different type of portrait from all the races from the 40k universe. And I think when they do put that into this game as well, this mod, I think that really will help it come alive, and I think will make it a lot more of an interesting sort of aspect to the game, and I think this is going to be one to watch. It's the thing that I'm seeing a little bit potentially with the Twilight of the Imperium one, and why I'm starting to think maybe I should back away from it a little bit once I've finished off the current series, is it doesn't look like it's really getting updated. I'm not sure whether that's just a case there's a big update coming, or whether they have just completely stopped on it and it's kind of stalled. But that's one of the problems with mods like this, especially early days in terms of the game, or sort of the life cycle of the game, particularly for Paradox games that do last for as long as, Crusader Kings 2 has been running for God knows how many years, and they're still releasing DLC for it. That is one of the limits of the actual, mods, getting them particularly early on like this, that there are a lot of features planned, and unfortunately a lot of modders do end up giving up. They're not paid for it. It's completely understandable why they would give up on it, and I've really got my fingers crossed for this mod that that's not something that they do. They maybe, start to look at maybe the tech trees, maybe adding in some new unique sort of tech for sort of in terms, maybe not new tech, completely brand new tech, but maybe, taking some stuff, taking existing ones, renaming them a little bit, giving them a little bit more of a Star Wars feel to them. So, things like being able to get sort of Jedi troops, or Force-using troops, for ground assaults, or things like that, I think would be a really nice touch, and I don't know if they put them in yet. From what I've seen, I've had a quick check of the armies, they don't seem to be putting anything like that in. But if they do, I think that'd be a brilliant little feature, so you can get your actual, force, you get usual assault and your usual defense forces, but you can also as well get like force-using forces. That's probably a really bad way of saying that there. Force-using troops, so, you can get units of Jedi to go and attack, so maybe they're smaller, but they're a lot more powerful, so they have less numbers, but they, add up to roughly the equivalent of what a normal force strength would be, or they are, a lot more expensive upkeep, but they're the same size and a lot stronger, and things like that, and, balancing it out with the upkeep costs and things basically would be a really nice way to do it. Maybe renaming some of the actual resources. So I know the actual things like Cloud City, it does mine, I think it's Tapani gas, which is what they use for powering, and it's like their ammunition for things like the blaster pistols and things like that. So it might be nice if, you get resources like the Tapani gas that you can then go and send your miners to, rather than getting, say, stuff like the terraforming gases. Little name changes like that. I know they are going to be quite low down on the list of things to do in mods. I know it's, it's really just those are aesthetic choices more than anything, so they're not something that's probably going to come in too quickly, but if they do come in at some point, I think that would be a really nice choice for them. I think it'd be a really good design decision for the modders for this to do. I'm really keeping my fingers crossed for them, though. I'm actually really enjoying it. I love the Star Wars setting. In case you can't tell, I absolutely know left, right, and centre. I'm one of my friends always laugh at me because I can tell them, where the Wookiees brush their teeth, which is actually from the Knights of the Old Republic game. They do actually reference things like that, and so I know all this completely random and pointless knowledge really about Star Wars, and it's something that I want to keep sharing and getting to play in that world, especially with this one, with it being more of the Knights of the Old Republic and the old expanded universe setting, which is, like I've mentioned, my second favourite one. The Legacy here is my favourite one as a whole, although there's not as much of it. There was only the comic book series, and that's it, and also the roleplay for the old D20 system roleplay from Wizards of the Coast. They had a campaign setting book. That's all that there really is for that setting. Knights of the Old Republic setting, or the Old Republic setting if you prefer, is one that is a lot more fleshed out. There's a lot more stuff being added to it continuously. Even now, the Old Republic MMO is still going. There are rumours of them re-releasing or doing a remastered version of Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic floating around, and so there are a lot of options with that one, and that setting is always expanding. So it is, technically it's probably my favourite, or well, technically it should be my favourite, or it's a very close second at the very, very least, just because of the more options that they can do it, and the larger that the sort of source material for that setting is in the Old Republic era. But here, so coming back to this game sort of more specifically, I keep getting very sidetracked. There's so much stuff I can talk about Star Wars. I could talk about it for days and days and days on end. But, getting back to this game, we're getting slowly further a little bit. We're managing to, we've expanded. We've got a lot of technology as well, which is really nice. We've got got a lot of technology places around Korriban, so hopefully that should be able to offset the fact that we haven't unfortunately been able to get any planets yet. We haven't been able to colonize anywhere new, and so we're going to have to continue exploring, find some places to colonize, and then that's going to be our next aim, to start expanding our actual area of space and expanding the Sith Empire with the ultimate rule of butting heads, shall we say, with the actual Republic and the Jedi and things like that, and finally destroying our age-old enemies. So I'm going to leave it there for today, so thank you very much for watching. Do be sure to hit that subscribe button down below if you did enjoy the video and want to see more of this series, and if you have any suggestions, why not leave a comment. I'm always open for some ideas and always happy to see what you might suggest. So thank you very much for watching. I've been Etharal here at eGen, and I shall catch you next time.